Carla Zeus at the CNN Center. Today's show starts with the number 780 million. That's almost half the population of China. It's more than twice the population of the United States. And 780 million is the number of Chinese under some form of travel restriction as their government tries to stop the spread of the Wuhan coronavirus. As we've reported, it's spread around the world, but China has been hardest hit. 70,000 people there have been infected with the virus. 1,770 have died there from it. That's about 2.5% of those who catch the disease in China. Deaths have also been reported in Hong Kong, the Philippines, Japan, and France, and cases have been reported in more than 24 countries on almost every continent. There's no vaccine or cure for the new coronavirus. Some people get severe symptoms and develop pneumonia. Some people have almost no symptoms at all. And quarantines have been put in place in China and abroad in an effort to protect those who don't have it from those who do. Aboard the Diamond Princess, that's a cruise ship that's been docked in Japan for 2 weeks, at least 456 people have tested positive for the coronavirus. There were roughly 3,700 people aboard in total. More than 300 Americans who were on the ship have been allowed to travel back to the U.S., but they'll reportedly be quarantined again on American soil for another 14 days. The World Health Organization, which is part of the United Nations, is not officially classifying the new coronavirus as a pandemic, a disease epidemic that spreads throughout the world. Officials there say they're not seeing the virus spread widely in individual communities outside of China. But for those inside China, the scenes are eerie and the economic impact is growing.
You're looking at the post-Lunar New Year holiday rush on the streets of Beijing. Most years, you'd see millions of migrant workers pouring back into China's capital. But this year, a much slower pace and thin crowds. The normally bustling shopping districts, desolate, on the outside at least. And think you'd find more life indoors? Health checkpoints like this one screen people at every entrance of this shopping mall. Sanitized only to enter a sterile and near-empty space.
But what about a bigger studio, like Warner Brothers or Universal? As we've seen over the past couple decades, box office hits aren't often considered Oscar contenders, and blockbusters don't really need the exposure that a nomination brings. Isn't the money enough of a reward?
The people who work on these movies, by and large, are artists who want to be appreciated as artists by other artists in town. So when they are in contention for an Oscar, it means something deeper. It satisfies them in a way that money can't only.
So it's really about talent acquisition and talent retainment.
Yeah, it's about making sure that people are happy, you know? We see it all the time when a star has had success and then they want to do something more serious. They want to be understood as an artist with something to say.
Is that me?
When Warner Brothers goes all in on an Oscar campaign for Bradley Cooper, or Ben Affleck, or Clint Eastwood, it's not just for bragging rights, or even a box office bump. No, the studio spends that cash to show commitment to its stars, and to keep them coming back for future projects. For example, Hollywood's biggest studio, Disney, is pushing harder and harder for its top blockbusters to be in Oscar contention.
What next?
But the race isn't just between traditional studios anymore. So why does something like Netflix want to win an Oscar? I mean, it's already the talk of Hollywood. It's one of the biggest media companies on the planet. Why does it need the little gold man?
I think Netflix is eager to disrupt any industry it can get its hands on. You know, they've already changed the way that we watch television. Now they want to do the same for movies. Just like any studio, they want to be able to get in the Oscar race so that top-tier auteurs will come to them to make movies instead of the big studios that are out there. If they can penetrate this race, there's really nothing that Netflix can't do. They want to upend the idea of theatrical distribution being the end-all, be-all of seeing a movie. They want to change the way you see a movie. And if they can get Oscar to validate that, then they've gotten almost all the way there.
The Academy is getting younger and more diverse, and its nominees and winners are shifting too.
I think it's good and necessary to recontextualize what we think of as an Oscar contender, because it means that a lot of better movies that have maybe been historically overlooked by this season, but have certainly not been overlooked by audience members, can actually get into the race.
Over the decades, the Academy Awards have become bigger, more expensive, and maybe a bit more inclusive. But in the end, Louis B. Mayer started the awards to flatter stars into working in his movies. And today's studios will spend more than ever to do just the same.
When it comes to this town, when it comes to Hollywood, a lot of people go into the industry, or even before they get into the industry, they've stood in front of that mirror. They've practiced that Oscar speech. It is still the summit of this industry in so many ways, and a lot of people want that to really feel like they've hit the dream that they've always had.
All right, the latest reports, fears about the coronavirus continue to dominate global media today. It's not a surprise. And the White House Coronavirus Task Force added HIV expert Debbie Birx, who will report directly to the vice president. Now, 600 people are voluntarily isolating themselves in Massachusetts after they traveled to China. Smart move. Australia, with only 23 people infected, 15 already released from the hospital, announced an emergency outbreak plan. It includes designating stadiums for mass quarantines. By the way, most people here think that is ridiculous, not necessary. Forcing entire at-risk towns and cities to get vaccinated if one should be developed. Of course, stores online, retailers are running low on N95 respirator masks, even surgical gloves. 47 countries have reported deaths. The death toll is over 2,800. Italy remains the hardest hit in Europe, with 650 people infected. In Italy, 17 deaths. Saudi Arabia has closed its 2 holiest shrines to all foreigners. And the U.S. stock market, we know what happened today, took another nosedive. It was the largest single-day drop in history for the Dow.
Coronavirus fears sending stocks tumbling today. The Dow losing almost 1,200 points.
The Dow and S&P now on track for the worst week since the 2008 financial crisis.
That's not something to be taken lightly, and that's going to be something that a lot of traders watch for.
All right, the president's newly appointed coronavirus task force chief, Vice President Mike Pence, sought to reassure the country that the administration was being proactive and as vigilant as possible.
China has reported 427 new confirmed cases of coronavirus infections on Friday. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 79,251 in China. Death toll has already reached 2,835 as of Friday, up by 47 from Thursday. There are now over 83,000 global cases and infections in every continent except Antarctica. World Health Organization has upgraded global risk of the coronavirus outbreak to very high, its top level of risk assessment. UN body has said there was still a chance of containing the virus if its chain of transmission was broken. More than 50 countries have now reported cases of coronavirus, with financial markets across the globe witnessing a Black Friday due to this crisis. A British man becomes the first UK citizen to die from coronavirus after being infected on the Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan. Japanese health officials have said he is the 6th passenger to die from the virus. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said coronavirus is now UK government's top priority, as the total number of coronavirus cases in UK stands at 20. U.S. State Department on Friday raised a travel advisory for Italy to the second highest level warning. They have warned Americans to reconsider travel due to the outbreak. This move comes as Italy has suffered at least 650 cases and 17 deaths from the coronavirus, the worst so far in Europe.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.
The Democratic presidential candidates blanketing South Carolina just 2 days away from that crucial primary, trying to appeal to the key demographic of black voters who made up 60% of the vote in the 2016 Democratic primary.
The African American, Latino, Native American communities that have been hit the hardest by the war on drugs.
The African American community, the most loyal support that exists in the Democratic Party.
The next generation of African American doctors, nurses, and researchers need to be supported.
I believe that we are very far from racial justice in the United States of America.
Out front now, Charlemagne the God, host of the radio show The Breakfast Club. He's been interviewing the candidates on his show, also a South Carolina native, and you've been spending a lot of time down there. Okay, so recently when you and I spoke, you were talking about Mayor Pete, and you were saying, sure, he hadn't been showing the numbers yet in the black community, but you felt he had the best agenda. You were pointing people out to his agenda.
Yeah, I do like the Douglas plan. That has since changed, though. I like the Greenwood initiative that Mayor Bloomberg is presenting as far as a black agenda.
Okay, so
I still like the Douglas plan, though.
Okay, but then let's get to them. I mean, obviously, Bloomberg's not on the ballot there, but do you now think? I mean, because originally you had been saying you were moving towards Mayor Pete. Is that changing too?
I wasn't moving towards Mayor Pete. I never fully endorsed Mayor Pete. But I think Mayor Pete stands the goodest chance of anybody in South Carolina. You know, I do think that this week, I think he spent too much time attacking Bernie, especially on the debate stage, you know, as opposed to telling America and telling South Carolinians why they should go out there and vote for him. I think a lot of them on that stage did that, not just Mayor Pete, though.
So talk to me, though, about Bloomberg, because obviously he's come under immense criticism, right, for stop and frisk, and whether he intended that as a racist policy and his response to that. Why is it that you think he has the best agenda then for African Americans?
I mean, listen, all the criticism is deserving. You know, I give him criticism. You know, when it comes to things like the stop and frisk policy, there are people that are still being affected by that today. So, you know, you always have to hold them accountable for that. But, you know, I'm just going off the fact that I'm voting for my interests in 2020 and my interests of black people. So when I look at the Greenwood Initiative, you know, he wants to create, you know, 100,000 new black-owned businesses, and he wants 1 million new black homeowners, and he wants to put, you know, $70 billion into the poorest and most disenfranchised neighborhoods in the country. I have to look at that as a black man and say, you know what, that would be good for our people. Now, do I trust that he's going to do it? I don't know, but I just like the actual initiative because I'm voting my interest, and that's it. And I'm not one of the black people that Mayor Bloomberg bought off, by the way. I'm just speaking from the fact.
Well, you're looking at the policy, and that's what you see.
It.
So, Congressman James Clyburn, of course, has been the most powerful endorsement in South Carolina Democratic politics for a long time. You know, he gave an emotional endorsement of his longtime friend, Joe Biden. It wasn't a surprise to anybody that he did it, but he did it in a very, you know, meaningful way. Here's part of what he said.
As I stand before you today, I am fearful for the future of this country. No one more committed to the fundamental principles that make this country what it is than my good friend, my late wife's great friend, Joe Biden.
I mean, you know, gives you goosebumps to hear it. It's obviously very heartfelt. How much will that endorsement matter?
Oh, it's going to matter a lot in South Carolina. You know, I love O.G. Clyburn. You know, his wife is from my hometown, Moncks Corner, South Carolina, R.I.P. to Emily Clyburn. But I just don't understand the hype behind Joe Biden. You know, to quote Tupac, when I see Joe Biden, I'm like, yo, you really ain't shit without your homeboy. Because without Barack Obama, I don't see what all the hype is behind Joe Biden. Like, they talk about him being the most electable candidate, and he's the only person that can beat Trump. How? He hasn't even proven he can beat Bernie Sanders in a primary yet. So what makes them think he could beat, you know, Donald Trump? I know a lot of older voters in South Carolina are going to probably vote for Joe Biden, but I would hope that, you know, a lot of the younger voters in South Carolina, a lot of those new registered voters decide to turn out on Saturday as well and, you know, maybe shake things up a little bit.
So President Trump is rolling out, you know, community centers in 15 major cities to engage with black voters. He's identified this group as a crucial group for him, right? You know, he touts the African-American unemployment rate. They're going to sell hats and sweatshirts embroidered, according to Politico, with the word woke.
Oh, God. First of all, I hate the word woke. I think that all these woke folk need some sleep because they're so tired. Their ideas are tired. They just need some rest because they say anything and they're always mad for no reason.
Will he get any traction? President Trump?
I don't know, because that's just such pandering. You know what I mean? To label things with the word woke. But I mean, everybody's pandering. I see Bernie Sanders on stage with Public Enemy, you know what I mean? So it's just like everybody's doing their own little version of pandering. I just really hate the word woke. The word woke turns me off. So, you know, as soon as I see the word woke, I'm like, I'm going to sleep. I need rest as soon as I see the word woke.
I love seeing you, Charlamagne. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Charlamagne the God, thanks.
Global K-pop superstar BTS was selected by CNN as one of the 10 artists who transferred music this decade. On its website on Tuesday, CNN listed 10 music acts who reinvented the genres and themselves to earn impressive influence and staying power. BTS was the only Asian and Korean artist on the list. The list includes huge names such as Beyoncé, Drake, Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar, Frank Ocean, Lady Gaga, Metro Boomin, Solange, and Kanye West. Recognizing BTS's contribution to popularizing K-pop worldwide, including US, CNN said there is no way to deny BTS's impact since BTS made their albums to the #1 spot on Billboard 200 chart 3 times and sold millions of albums around the world. BTS is the first musician to top the chart 3 times within the time period of 1 year since legendary British band The Beatles. The 7-member boy band also proved their legendary existence by winning many awards, including American Music Awards. By mentioning now defunct girl group The Wonder Girls and Gangnam Style Psy's struggles to break into the US's music market for the past decade, CNN added that BTS brought K-pop to the mainstream, and their achievement could signify a larger stream of K-pop into the American consciousness in the 2020s, since their rise happened pretty late in the decade. The same day CNN's article was published, BTS showed up on the stage in New York City's Times Square to perform live for the masses waiting for the ball to drop at the famous New Year's Eve event hosted by Ryan Seacrest. BTS performed 2 of their best hits, Make It Right and Boy With Love, and proved their fame again. This was Sumi Yu from Korea Now.